So when I was in middle school, we had segmented lunches, which is, I think, a normal thing for American schools, like A lunch, B lunch, and C lunch, and then maybe you have some classes otherwise. And sixth grade, I was in C lunch. Seventh grade was A lunch, and then eighth grade, I think I had C lunch again. I shared lunch with some of the same kids. Like, I think in sixth grade and eighth grade, I was able to eat lunch with my best friend, but I don't think I was in the same, like, groups with other people. I think it was mixed up enough that you were never with the same groups throughout the years. And all this is set up for a very specific reason. At least once, every month, I'd say every 2 weeks, during lunch, a very particular sound would ring out throughout the cafetorium, like an auditorium cafeteria. We weren't rich enough to have a cafeteria by itself. Anyway, that sound was this. Ooh. Now, if it recorded correctly, because I couldn't find SFX for it, but if you grew up in America and watched sitcoms, or, I don't know, if you grew up in not the best neighborhoods and went to school, you probably recognize that sound as a group of people reacting to a person dissing someone or challenging someone to a fight. At least that's what we always recognized it as, because immediately everyone would stand up and look for the fight. Now, the teachers were on alert because, again, not the greatest school, but they would always quiet us down and we never saw a fight. But the noise happened at least once a month. And because it's a group noise, it was difficult to pinpoint where it came from. Finally, during 8th grade, after 3 years of this, I asked a nearby teacher, like after the noise had settled down and we were done getting in trouble, if other classes had done that too. And she said, very simply, but very upset, no. I have been teaching for however many years, and the class of our graduating class is the only class to ever do this. We do not know why you do that. See, I always thought this was a middle school tradition or something. I never questioned why we were making that noise. But apparently it was only our graduating class. Whichever, like, lunch that I was in was the only group to do that, and I have no idea why. Now, there was a fight once, but of course I was absent when it happened. And it didn't occur during lunch, and there was no warning. There was no ooh or anything. According to my friend, it was like really messy, like hair was pulled and blood was shed, and but I always thought that was really interesting, and I'm sharing it with you. Anyway, I had another video planned. And then the trailer for Dragon Ball Daima dropped. And now I'm making a video about Daima because I think you all know who I am as a person now. And because I think I have an idea for who we might see as an ultimate villain in the series and what the series itself might be about. I think the advertising for it has been a little interesting, so we'll talk about it. But first, editor me, hit the intro. Okay, so today you're going to see a lot of pictures from when I lived in Japan, specifically a trip I took to Odaiba just before Dragon Ball Super Broly came out. I was with my partner at the time, and we didn't know that was a thing, but we just happened to go to Odaiba, and oh my god, it was so cool to see all that concept art and stuff, but you're going to see it too now. Anyway, this has always lived rent-free in my head, and I'm going to read you the English translation, which thankfully was there, and so you don't have to listen to me translating the Japanese part, which absolutely would have made this video late, and would have been extremely painful for all of us. So there is one part where I really did refer to the Japanese version for quality checking, not because I don't trust whoever translated this, but you'll see in a second. So here we go. And the picture is crooked because I didn't want to get in the way of anyone, and when in Rome kind of thing. I always took my pictures crooked. So here we go. Everyone, are you familiar with Broly? He's an incredibly strong Saiyan who only appeared in the old anime movies. And I apparently at least drew the designs for him, but I had practically no involvement in the anime at the time, so I had forgotten about the story content. So, about Broly. I hear these days he's still very popular, not only in Japan, but also overseas. Based on that, my editor suggested we have Broly appear in the next movie. I went ahead and watched the movies from back then, and I felt this could be quite interesting once I rearranged some things. I got right to work trying my hand at a story that incorporates him into the Dragon Ball Super series. While keeping in mind Broly's classic image so as not to disappoint his fans, I updated him and added a new side to his character, and I think this has resulted in a more fascinating Broly. Naturally, you'll get to see fierce combat, but also the paths of destiny that led to an encounter between Goku, Vegeta, and Broly. It also involves the Frieza Force and the history of the Saiyans, which end up having a major connection to everything. The story content turns out to be very large scale and dramatic. Here comes the almighty Saiyan Broly. I'm also including lots of other content all you fans will enjoy, so I look forward to it and be patient a little while longer for it all to come together. Although I read the whole thing, and of course, rest in peace, Toriyama sensei. The key part that I want to focus on is this sentence, and a little bit in the middle. He's an incredibly strong Saiyan who only appeared in the old anime movies, and I apparently at least drew the designs for him, but I had practically no involvement with the anime at the time, so I'd totally forgotten about the story content. Now, here's where I went to double check the original, because in Japanese, Toriyama sensei does use rashi, which can be used to mean like it was told to me or it seems this way. And of course, the best and worst things about Toriyama sensei is that he was forgetful. He did indeed do the design for Broly, but the 1993 movie was written by Koyama Takao and directed by Yamauchi Shigeyasu, who both did a great job. I think we all loved Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, except for the crying part, which was weird. And anyway, Toriyama, for the most part, was hands off for a lot of the movies because he was busy with the series, or they were otherwise Toei's babies. But we know that he did develop a lot of the designs and then just kind of let them go at it. At that point, he was either too lazy, too tired, or too busy to really get hands in with the movies. I remember a similar thing happened with Fusion Reborn. They asked him to develop a fusion for Goku and Vegeta while he was developing a fusion for Goku and Vegeta that was going to be in the series. So anyway, my point is, we know that he's taken the idea of Broly, something that was done before, and put his own spin on it with Dragon Ball Super Broly. So, the other little bit is that he watched the series from back then, or watched the movies from back then, and wanted to try his hand at incorporating it into Super. Right? And my next piece of evidence for what I think is going to happen is this. And this is the most recent advert for Daima, particularly the words Grand Adventure, which I want to bring you to another piece of information in case you didn't know it. Despite mostly being hands-off with Dragon Ball GT, it was Toriyama Sensei who gave it the name of GT with the intention of it being short for... Hit the intro music.
Step into the Grand Tour. Step into the Grand Tour. Dragon Ball GT.
Yeah, I always thought that was a joke too. Also, thanks to DB Geek for having easy access to the song, and also for this top comment. I think that Daima can mean a few things. The obvious meaning would be Dai as in great, and Ma as in evil, which is the reason why Piccolo registered himself for the Tenkaichi Budokai as Ma Jr. But I checked my dictionary because I'm not fluent in Japanese. I just know a bunch of it. And apparently, daima is internet slang for direct marketing. All this is to say, I think daima is going to be a new method of direct marketing for supporters of Dragon Ball. Thank you so much for falling upside up with me. I'm kidding. Basically, everyone who's speculated on it has called it. I don't think it was ever hidden, but I think we called it in the wrong way. You see, in the box set of Dragon Ball GT, Toriyama himself referred to GT as a side story, literally in Japanese, side story. And in saying that, I don't think he ever considered it to be in line with his version of the series. Stop, because I don't want to say it's not canonical, because I don't think that Toriyama Sensei was necessarily the type of person to think like we do. And by we, I mean weebs. I don't think he thought of canonicity like that. I'm speculating, of course, because now all that we have is what's left, and that's what I'm judging by. But I don't think he ever considered GT to be part of his story. When we first heard about it, the comments, when we first heard about Daima, I remember a lot of the comments being largely negative. And unfortunately, we were all crushed with the benefit of perspective, which is a terrible thing to have given how we got it. But what I'm saying is, I think that saying, oh, Toriyama's just ripping off GT is incredibly simple. And it's like saying he ripped off Broly. He wanted to take the designs, the original beginnings, which of course were always his, and try his own hand at a similar story. And all that is to say that I think the last thing he worked on was his own take on Dragon Ball GT, much like he'd done his own take on Broly. Something that he saw as popular, which you got to admit, with the rise of Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego, a lot of praise has been given to Super Saiyan 4, right? I think we've all looked at that and been like, well, this was actually kind of cool too. I like Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego, but there has been a lot of fan backlash because there's always going to be fan backlash. All this is to say, I think we're going to see Daima as Toriyama's version of GT, much like he'd done his own take on Broly. Some of the themes we saw in GT might be repeated, expanded on, and for those of us that think of it this way, canonized, much in the same way he canonized Broly. But I think there will be some differences. I'm going to talk about those a little bit. I don't think it'll take us to space as much as GT did, because I think the Moro and Granola arcs of the manga did that, and he wrote that. So I don't think we'll see too much more of it. CBR did a really fucking stupid reveal of, quote, a new form for Goku, which revealed that he's going to be a kid. Top-notch reporting as always, guys. But I do think we're going to see a new form for Goku at some point, like we saw Super Saiyan 4. Probably Vegeta will also get it. It's Dragon Ball. We love our transformations. I'm pretty sure it'll be cool. I hope that we can look forward to more vehicle designs, which, as I mentioned in my Goodbye Toriyama video, those were something that he always loved. And they're one of my favorite things about Toriyama Sensei's designs. We can see in the trailer that there is at least one more Namekian-inspired ship. It isn't the one that brought Kami to Earth, because that was destroyed on Old Namek. However, after the introduction of the Super Dragon Balls, I think we can speculate that Namekians have some kind of connection to the gods, meaning the ship design itself might be something of the Kaioshin. And speaking of the Kaioshin, stepping back into the meta, if I have my timelines right, the Makaioshin were first introduced in 2009, and Dragon Ball GT itself was finished in 1997. Saying both of those times makes me feel old as hell, but what I'm saying is the concept of bringing something back from hell that was introduced in GT with Super 17 might see a return via the Makaioshin, which I think we pretty brazenly saw throughout the trailer, doing that same stuff that we see demons like Demigra and Mira doing, which is looking at screens, but maliciously. And when you think about bringing something back from hell, it kind of makes you think of like, what villain is that going to be? What villain is going to be revived? And so we go down the list, right? Cell was in Superhero, so I don't think we'll see him again. Frieza is technically still alive. I don't think we'll see him throughout this series, although it would be interesting to make Kid Goku fight against some version of Frieza, but I don't think that would be a fair fight considering what we saw of Black Frieza. Vegeta and Broly, good guys now. Like I said, I don't think we'll see Super 17. And that just leaves one more major villain, which struck me with this guy. He's described as a mysterious Majin, which is always a great thing to be introduced as. If you could be introduced as mysterious, you should try it. It was stated in the 2014 Cycle Jump number 6 that Bibbidi and Bobbidi didn't actually create Majin Buu or any Buu. They weren't Buu creators. They were just Buu capturers. They just found a way to control him. So Buu had existed as a force of destruction for eons. They found a way to control him, and then they became scary. Until something weird happened. The Kaioshins gave their lives to weaken him, and then, looking at it from the perspective of outsiders, 2 people teamed up to destroy Buu. Those 2 people were Shin and Son Goku. 2 of the people we know get turned into kids and effectively weakened. From the perspective of an outsider who only knows the overarching story, Shin gathered the Earthlings that were sent to fight Buu, and Goku released the spirit bomb that destroyed him in the end and caused him to revive as Oob, a good guy. So, if someone were to want to reincarnate Buu as a villain, those would be 2 roadblocks that you'd want to stop, right? And while we're at it, there is one other person who we would want to stop, someone who could destroy Buu with a touch, and rather than having to fight him, the person who is probably the most powerful of the gods of destruction, it would be much, much easier to kill his counterpart by making him a kid. So, I think that's where we're headed. The Mysterious Majin and Eyeballs McGee here are teaming up to revive a more purely evil form of Buu. Hellbent Buu, if you will. And Goku and the others are going to have to face him towards the end of the series. As for this guy, who, we love someone who keeps his peace on hand, I think he's probably going to end up like a Jocko type character, but cooler. I love Jocko, but he does have a lot of Yajirobe in him, where he's kind of a coward. Whereas this guy, I see more of like a rogue cop playing into Toriyama's love of, Western media and that kind of die-hard type of cop character. Hopefully we'll see someone like that. Hopefully that's who he ends up being. So that's my theory for where Daima is taking this. And I think it could be a really awesome way to say goodbye to Super, or a really great final chapter of Super from Toriyama before Toyotaro fully takes over and does what he's going to do. It will also answer the question of where does GT fall in Super, by saying right in the middle, so we don't have to worry about that 7-year gap anymore that everyone's always been asking about. And now I want to know what you think. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? I always try to have my facts straight, but when it comes to the Daizenshu stuff, I miss a lot. And there are definitely people who know more than me, so I'm really interested in what you guys think. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, and share this with people who are interested in Dragon Ball, or are just interested in hearing about people talk about things. And as always, thank you so much for falling upside up with me. It is the best way to fall down. Go get a snack. Maybe some senzu beans. They'll perk you right up.
孫悟空とベジータを盗んで1時間経ってもここに連れてくることができなかったらどうなるかお分かりですよね。